Okay, everybody, so I am honored today because I am joined by Michael Mando, a.k.a. Nacho Varga from Better Call Saul. Michael, how are you doing today?
How are you, Steve? So nice to be on your podcast, my friend.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. So I wanted to jump into a scene that really stood out for me with Nacho, which was in episode 2, where he is in the car with Gus's henchman, and then Gus comes in, and they basically threaten to kill his dad in front of him. It's a gruesome scene. It's terrifying to watch. I want to know, as an actor, how do you even get to that place of where Nacho is in that scene and get like all pumped up in a sense?
Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your compliment. You know what? That was a really, really hard scene for many reasons. The first thing is there's so many ways to play that scene. You know, you could play it incredibly emotional. You could play it detached. There's a million ways to play it, and I think the challenge of it was that we wanted Nacho to sort of subconsciously know that this was not really going to happen, that this was just a psychological. I think the way it was described in the script was that it was psychological torture. So it wasn't like immediate. It wasn't supposed to be an immediate threat to his father's life, but in Nacho's mind, he was to see what it would feel like was his father to be assassinated in front of him. And it was a really, really hard thing for me to play because that's the whole heart of the character. He's trying to save his father, and in that moment, he painfully has to watch his reason of existing, basically, jeopardized and lose everything. And it's either that or, either he does what Gus says or his father is dead. And that really solidifies the character for me, and we really come to understand that everything he's doing at this point on is 100% just to save his father's life, and that he's willing to throw away all the money in the world, all the power in the world, all the influence in the world, and leave it all just so he can save his father's life, of course, but it goes a little deeper than that, is so that his father can look at him with respect and love again. And his father, of course, is, the most moral character in Nacho's universe, sort of like a saint, if you will. And it's just such a beautiful, really beautiful character, and I just feel so lucky to be a part of it, really.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hit on too, is like you said that his father's like the heart of this character, and there's a scene in episode 3 where he's sitting with his father who comes to his house, and he's accusing his son of having someone bribe him basically with money to get out of town. And I just want to know, so you can kind of clear up for the audiences, when the father is like constantly saying to Nacho, like, get out of the game, start a new life, this isn't you. What really is stopping Nacho from just leaving the country and starting a new life? Like, why is he so just trapped in this hell?
Well, it's a bit more complex. You're absolutely right in what you're saying, but I think in Nacho's situation, for Nacho is a bit more complex, because Nacho wasn't bribing his father. What Nacho did was Nacho sent an old family friend. He gave an old family friend money to buy up his father's shop and offered him a really good deal. And his father found out, because his father's pretty smart and kind of, I guess, knows his son, that the money that the guy was buying the store with was Nacho's money.
Right.
And that it was Nacho's way of liberating his father from his shop, so that his father is now mobile and he can run away with his father. The reason why Nacho can't leave is because the moment Nacho disappears, they're going to go after his father.
Right.
So it is absolutely important that Nacho leaves with his father. But his father doesn't want to leave.
Right.
And
right.
his father's solution is go to the police. And of course, Nacho can't do that.
Right.
Because if Nacho was to go to the police, that means he's going to have to testify against the whole cartel. And that means that they're actually definitely going to kill his father at that point, and him and everybody who tries to testify. But his father has such a black and white sense of morality that he doesn't understand the complexity of
Right.
this underground world, that it deals with people that go up into government. It's not just like, thugs on the corner of the street. We're talking about incredibly powerful people who have connections in the military. Gus Fring has connections in Europe. He runs one of the biggest, fast food chains in that part of the world. And Nacho really, it's unbelievable, because he really finds himself in this situation that really feels impossible.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the just hard thing about watching this whole storyline unfold with Nacho. And it really hit me too in episode 3 where we're back at Nacho's house, and like it reminds me a lot a bit of Jesse Pinkman's story, where it's like you have this really nice house, there's beautiful women, big TV, big paintings, but there's like literally visually no light in that place. It's just hollow and like dark. And I was wondering, like, do you find any joy in the character of Nacho, or is he just always at like a mute, sad place?
You know, it's funny. I feel so much compassion for the character,
Mm-hmm.
and so much love. You know, for me, it's a redemption story. You know, it's a story of a young man who got into this business because it was what was flashiest. You know, he felt, if I wanted to make money and drive nice cars and date a beautiful girl and have a big house with big paintings, then this is available to me, and all my friends are doing it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be the best at it. And as he gets involved, you know, he realizes that when his father looks at him and discovers who he's become, there's this sense of shame. You know, there's this immense sense of, you know, at this point, his father comes in and looks at the painting, and Nacho just realizes how stupid everything looks, and that no money in the world can earn true respect. And that's what I love about the character, is that he's able to look at himself and realize that he's made a mistake, and his sense of morality kind of increases and becomes holistic almost. You know, he realizes there's much more to life than this, and respect and dignity and integrity, and the right way is way superior than all the money in the world. And that's such an iconoclastic character, and it's I've never seen a character like that in recent memory. It's usually the opposite. You've got someone who starts off really good and ends up doing really bad. But in this case, it's someone who starts off really bad and ends up truly, genuinely wanting to do really good and is willing to die for it. And it really warms my heart, you know, it really, really does. I feel lucky. I feel it's such an iconoclastic thing to do, you know, for those writers that have created a character like that.
Yeah, it really is awesome too, just to see it watch, and like you're saying, it feels fresh and new to see on TV especially. And you know, I remember when I first started watching you in the show, I looked up a couple interviews of you, and I was expecting this guy who was very like upset, and like you seem like the nicest dude. You have so much like a bubbly personality, so it's just a credit to how good your acting is. And I just want to know too, how do you turn? Is there like a switch you're turning on when you're on set to get to like, okay, now I'm Nacho, this very dark character who does seem very different from you? Is there like, how do you get to that place all the time?
Well, thank you so much. It really means a lot. Those are very, very sweet words, and I'm moved by them. Thank you. You know, I think I feel. I mean, personally, I don't know if I should say this because it might make me sound crazy, but I feel like I can recognize, I can understand, I think, everybody's emotional reality. You know, if you walk down the street and you see somebody who's shooting meth in the corner of the street and yelling at you, I can understand what would drive someone to do that. And I can understand why someone would sell drugs. I can understand why someone would be a police officer and stop that person who wants to sell drugs. So I think it all starts with a certain degree of compassion for others, and this understanding of like, you know, had I done this and that, and this had been a little bit different, I would have ended up here. And had I done this and this, I would have ended up here. So I think we're all kind of capable, or at least I'd like to think we're all capable of doing everything. And some of us don't realize we're doing it, and then we catch ourselves and figure out, oh my God, what am I doing? And then some of us change and some of us don't. What I love about Nacho is that he catches himself doing that thing that he's been doing for a while. And it's like he's got a moment of clarity. And I think it takes an incredible amount of willpower for a character or for a human being to truly change his life course. And this character is really unique in that sense. So I think he is dark, but I think he's heading towards the light. And I think, you know, he might not make it. He might make it. Who knows? But I hope so, that he continues to head towards the light. And if there is an afterlife, you know, hypothetically speaking, I think that's where I think he's maybe heading towards a good place.
Oh,
Or
that's
at least
nice.
I'd like to think. You know what I mean?
Sure. And do you see any of Michael Mando in the character of Nacho?
The relationship with his father is very inspired by the love that I have for my dad. You know, I was raised by a single father,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad raised 3 boys, and I'm the middle one. And I've seen my dad work so hard and sacrifice so much to raise 3 young kids, you know, who are really kind of loud and, you know, very competitive and very athletic and very, you know, uncontrollable almost, and all this testosterone in the house. And it's only now that I'm getting older that I realize how hard it must have been for my father, you know, to just be a single man raising 3 boys and traveling with us and putting us through school and making sure we're fed and putting us into, you know, playing hockey and boxing and football and doing everything, you know, giving us everything he could. And I think a lot of that is inspired me with the relationship with Juan Carlos Cantu, who plays my father. And Juan Carlos Cantu and I really hit it off immediately. You know, the moment I knew he was playing my father, it was kind of new to me. They didn't really tell me about it. I kind of read the script and said, oh, he's got a dad. And the moment Juan Carlos flew into Albuquerque, I invited him for lunch, and I said, look, man, I'm really interested in building a relationship with the father, because I feel it gives an opportunity to humanize this archetype that is otherwise very stereotypically kind of ruthless.
Right.
And Juan Carlos, who is Mexican, I'm not Mexican myself. I'm French-Canadian, but Juan Carlos is Mexican, and he immediately felt this was an opportunity for us to kind of flip the archetype. And it started there. You know, Juan was very touchy. You know, he was hugging, and you know, at some point I said, why don't you give me a little slap on the cheek? And he liked the idea, and he did it. And the reason we wanted to do it is we wanted to show that around his father, Nacho didn't have any ego. There was no alpha ego. There was no like manly kind of like I'm in control relationship with his father at all. And that would switch when he was alone with Mike. And that gave you an insight that these people were human beings that were putting on a character in order to survive in the jungle. And a lot of that is inspired by, you know, stuff that I've lived and seen. I remember when I feel like I'm ranting over here.
No, this is great.
Am I ranting right now?
No, this is great.
I feel like I hate those things. You know, you hear those podcasts and you're like, man, I didn't shut up for an hour. It's like, what the hell am I doing?
No, this is all good.
I'll tell you a quick story, a quick anecdote before I stop ranting. See what your next question is.
Sure.
But I remember I was in Toronto, and in Canada, Toronto, and I was living in a place called St. James Town. And this is before I wanted to be an actor, and I loved playing basketball. And I wanted to play, but I didn't know anybody in the neighborhood. And it was kind of like I've lived throughout the whole gamut of, you know, poor to well off. You know, we've been poor and we were well off. I've kind of tasted both sides. And at that part in our lives, we weren't doing very well financially. And I remember going to see my dad. We were living in this place, and people were selling drugs in the between the game, like very nice cars would stop. You'd see these people from other neighborhoods, and then the guy would run and sell him something and then come back and play. And it was kind of like, it must have been expensive drugs, or maybe not, I don't know. But the people that were buying it were definitely well off. And I really wanted to play basketball, and I was so intimidated. You know, I said to myself, man, these guys not going to let me play with them. You know, it's like super competitive, and everybody's yelling, I got next, and everybody knows everybody. And I don't know what gave me the idea. You know, I was a teenager, and I decided I was going to shave my eyebrows, like kind of like Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
But I was going to like make lines in my eyebrows to look tougher.
Sure.
And I accidentally ended up shaving half of my eyebrows off. And I said to myself, you know what? Maybe I'll shave the other one off so that they're both parallel.
Oh,
and I had these very tiny, weird eyebrows off. And I went back to the court, and I started walking with a bit of a swagger and acting a little bit like I was unstable, you know.
Sure.
And then the moment the ball kind of bounced in my corner, I took it and just kind of imposed myself on the court and acted like I was a little bit drunk and started shooting and kind of posturing like a gorilla in the jungle, you know.
Yeah.
And surely enough, before you knew it, I was playing.
Wow.
and that's kind of, I think, what that is. That posturing in this underground world is that you've got to have that persona, you know. And I think Nacho has that persona.
Yeah.
You know, he's learned to not speak a lot, and he's learned to hold back and observe, and that's a persona. And then when his father comes and he's serving him coffee, that's him.
Right.
And it's kind of like Saul Goodman, you know. Saul Goodman's got his persona, and Jimmy McGill is really who he is. I think the major difference between Nacho and his persona is that they're a complete opposite spectrum morally. You know, Nacho has a very good moral core, but he's in an environment where his persona is doing very immoral things. And I think that's the complexity of the character, is that he doesn't want to.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a crazy story too. It's almost like you're doing in that story what you would do in the future full time and just acting and like performing. And
yeah, I didn't even know I wanted to be an actor at the time, to be honest with you.
So that's what I was going to ask you.
I never grew up wanting to do it.
Yeah, because I read a story, if you could tell me if this is true or not, but that you suffered a knee injury in your mid-20s, and then, like,
yeah, I was
shot
in the knee in a fight.
Okay.
I was shot in the knee. Yeah, and I had a bullet that went through it kind of missed my main bones, but it kind of hit a little bit the side, and it went down through my calf area.
Oh my God, that's insane. And so
yeah, and that kind of took me on a journey where I started kind of questioning my life, and it was really hard because I had to, you know, I had trouble at the time walking, and they thought I was never going to play sports again, and at some point I had an infection in my bones, and they were going to cut my leg off.
Jeez.
And I'll never forget it. I was at the hospital. It was like 6 a.m, and my father was there with me, and he was worried, and I said, just give it to me straight, you know, what's going on? And he goes, they're going to call a specialist, and the worst case scenario is that they're going to cut your leg off.
Oh my God.
And I'll never forget it. You know, you go through something like that in life, and you're sitting there, and immediately your survival instincts kicks in, and I said to myself, I'm going to be a writer. Right. Immediately, right there on the bed, I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a writer. Right. And it was weird, you know, I wasn't even thinking about like the complexity of like, what if it goes bad and I die? I just thought, okay, they're going to cut my leg off, it'll be fine, and then I'll write. Right. I didn't think of the pain that I would go through. Sure. You know what I mean? It was kind of these, and those things, I think that's kind of my journey that sort of, in a strange way, led me to acting. And now, for the first time in my life, I'm going to do music. I'm releasing music in April 7th. I'm going to release my first single. And I think you go through experiences like that, and you say to yourself, you know, life is so short.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? I've been doing interviews all morning.
Right.
And I realized you got me at that sweet spot where it's like I'm just talking a lot because I've been talking all day and I can't stop.
Yeah, yeah.
You got me talking about all this random stuff, and I forget that I'm doing an interview.
Yeah, I went deep.
God, it's been a long morning.
Okay, so actually, to wrap things up, I noticed that here's more random stuff, but you're a man of many inspirational quotes on Twitter. Do you apply mantras to your life daily? Are you really into it, or do you bring that to your acting game at all?
I try to, you know. I really feel that a craftsman is a noble thing, and by that I mean whether you're building a table, or you're an electrician, or garbage man, or a doctor, or a surgeon. I mean, whatever you do, I think it's important to take a sense of responsibility and to truly love what you do, and to feel that you're contributing to society. Nice. And that's what motivates me. Or else, to be honest with you, there are days I don't feel like doing it. There are days I don't feel like doing an interview. I don't want to go to work this morning. I don't feel like shooting. But if you embody a sense of responsibility and a sense of meaning to it, then you have a motivation. And when you have the motivation, you have the desire to get better. And then, you know, everything stems from there. So yeah, definitely. I always try to find a deeper meaning to what I'm doing, so that I don't lose the motivation and I keep that sense of responsibility. and everything. And that's why I don't like to work a lot,
Right.
because I feel if I'm always working, if I say yes to everything, then I feel I won't put in as much effort
Sure.
after a while, and it takes so much out of me that I feel like I'd rather not do a lot and do it for a very long time than do a lot and then feel like I'm just getting stale. And thank God at this point, I've been able to find that balance where every time I go back, I'm giving everything, and every time I'm done a project, I have absolutely nothing left to give.
Yeah, see, that alone right there is just great wisdom for any field, for anyone listening. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. And I'm going to ask you one more thing, because I'll get killed if I don't ask this, and you don't have to answer this, because I don't know what the rules are on this, but, we saw you in Spider-Man Homecoming at the end there as Scorpion. Is there a chance we'll ever see him again?
There's a chance.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
There's always a chance.
Okay, cool.
All right, brother.
Is there anything else you want to promote besides Better Call Saul before I let you go?
Yeah, I've got some music coming out in April, and my first single's coming out, and I can't wait for the world to hear it, man. I'm really, really proud of it. It's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. It's kind of been my real childhood dream has always been music. It's never been acting.
Okay.
And for me to finally do this just feels surreal, to be able to act and now to be able to release music. It's just, I just can't wait for the world to hear it, and I hope you guys like it.
And we'll be able to find it under your name on like Spotify and iTunes.
Yes, it's under Michael Mando. It's called. You'll see it on my social media on Instagram
Awesome.
and stuff. I'll be promoting it. And let me know what you think, man. I'd love to get your opinion.
Oh, hell yeah. And everyone make sure to check that out. And obviously make sure to keep watching Better Call Saul every Monday at 9 p.m. to see Michael Mando do Nacho Varga on AMC. Michael, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to talk to you for season 6.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's been a real pleasure, and speak to you soon, Steve.
Thanks, Michael.